Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich. It's been a bit since we've hopped into Kaiserreich proper. We've done some Kaiser Redux stuff. I record a lot, actually, before I headed out to Ireland for my semester abroad over there, but Kaiserreich itself, I haven't done too much. In fact, the most recent stuff I did was back in August, I want to say, which we hopped in as the nation of Ukraine when that got its update. And we did a pretty fun job. We stayed loyal to the Kaiser's government, and we made sure to just make sure we were, you know, nice and stable, and became a great ally of the Reichspakt. At least I think we did. I'm blanking on what exactly we did, but that's neither here nor there. Kaiserreich is officially its 1.0 patch. It's out of the beta. It is ready for prime time, which I am very, very happy about. And we even have like a neat little intro screen. I like this a lot, actually. And here we have the German Empire themselves with the normal tricolor that they got. Very interesting indeed. In 1919, after years of war and with the Entente nearing a collapse, the German Empire saw its victories made manifest in the Treaty of Versailles. The Weltkrieg made Germany an uncontested world power, yet things have been going downhill for her since the 1920s. A recessive world economy has dampened the nation's industries, while other nations' manufacturing powers recover. And now nationalism grows in the eastern client states, which are starting to drift away from the Reich. In 1936, Germany stands at a crossroads, and already we can see cracks in her mighty empire, as her ancestral enemies are regaining their former strength. So the big dog. I don't really play majors that much anymore. I think the last major I played was, at least for Kaiserreich. Well, I did some America stuff, actually, so that kind of counts. But the Civil War kind of splinters that off. The last major I probably played was the UOB, and that was when you could swap over UK and do the little coup path. So I haven't done many majors. Actually, what was Russia before after that? I've done a Russia campaign before, I think, as well. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked all over the place. The truth of the matter is that this is where we're at. So it's about time we go ahead and start up. No Iron Man, no historical AI. I was considering doing some custom game rules, but I'm not too worried. Maybe a little worried because I'm not very good. I'm okay, but I'm a little worried about everything that might end up popping up. But, you know what? We'll have this as a test of our skills, see how well we can manage proxy conflicts, volunteers, all that good stuff. So, let's go ahead and get to it. Start the game. And I'll go ahead and get my timer started while we are getting going. 19 minutes is fair. It's gonna be a little bit of a longer video than well, first part's always a little longer than usual because I usually have a loading screen. I have my little intro blurb. But yeah, it's gonna be back in Kaiserreich. I'm very happy. I love me some Kaiserreich. I have nothing but love. I have nothing but love to most of the mods I play, really, but Kaiserreich among them. One of the earlier campaign mods I started off with, I think it was like the first mod really that I started with. Oh, look at this! They have their own little intro screen thing. This is probably gonna be one of those longer videos, isn't it? Well, they usually are anyway. For the past 17 years, the German Empire has enjoyed its rightful place in the sun that was promised by Reich Chancellor Bernhard von Bülow. Defeating the Entente, the Weltkrieg, seizing a worldwide colonial empire, and earning a flock of satellites in Central Europe, it established itself as a preeminent economic diplomatic, cultural, and military power in Europe, if not the entire planet. From literature to finance, the German language is growing to a new lingua franca, while the word of the foreign secretary in Berlin can make entire countries bow, from petty dictatorships in the Americas to warlords on the coast of the Yellow Sea. The end of Weltkrieg saw the final victory of the parliamentarization process, which began during the war. The Kaiserreich prevailed over Ludendorff's ambitions and promulgated the March reforms to this Bismarckian constitution, ushering great power to the legislature and partial parliamentary control of the Reichskanzler. The two following decades have been marked by consensus of middle-class liberals, Catholics, and moderate conservatives, and has seen a string of Reichskanzlers seeking to maintain the achievement of the March Constitution. Times are changing, however, and this consensus will not last. A few months ago, the March coalition between the LVP and Zentrum collapsed, and a fallen government now sits in Berlin. New elections to the Reichstag approach in April, and it's becoming increasingly clear that the initiative in Parliament will not be held by the Liberals or Catholics, but by the Socialists and the SPD, or possibly even the hardline conservative bloc of the DKP and the DVLP. The aging Kaiser and his crown prince search for alternate solutions to the deadlock, however, even means a death blow to the empire's democracy. When even the sentinel of the New World Order waves, uncertain of its future, what can the rest of the world do but not worry for what's to come? How much do we got? Oh boy, we got a lot. We're gonna be here for a bit. We might not even hit the continue button to start off with. Alright, well, when the armistice between the remaining Allied powers and the Central Powers was signed on 12th of August 1919, in the beautiful castle of Chantilly, to the northeast of Paris, the German people rejoiced, realizing that the devastating Weltkrieg had finally found an end after 5 years of intense fighting. However, while Germany had ostensibly emerged as the glorious victor of the conflict, the nation was in dire straits. The British naval blockade had caused countless deaths due to starvation and disease. The German forces in the west were war-weary after dozens of bloody offensives into no man's land, and the people on the home front were thirsting for reforms to an outdated political system. Long-existing tensions had already culminated in the so-called September insurrections in 1918, when anti-war strikes escalated to far-left uprisings in various northern German cities, but these were brought down with extensive military violence. While internal peace could be restored, the influence of the military was clearer than ever before. Minor concessions to the public remained in the form of a slight reform to the Prussian suffrage and the reshuffling of the government cabinet, but nonetheless, the Supreme Army Command, OHL, around Hindenburg and Ludendorff expanded their powers further and further the following months, more and more sidelining the civilian government, a period colloquially known as the Ludendorff dictatorship. It was due to their pressure that the controversial unrestricted submarine campaign was relaunched in late 1918, after more than 2 years of semi-successful restricted submarine warfare in accordance with international law. And it was due to their restless lobbying that German diplomats pressed with the most far-reaching possible demands out of the war French of the 1919 Versailles peace negotiations, therefore indirectly contributing to the outbreak of the French Civil War soon after. However, as 1920 dawned, the legitimacy of the OHL's far-reaching influence on the civilian affairs began to crumble. Calls for reforms, election, the end of wartime censorship, and demobilization became louder. A major political crisis was imminent. The situation escalated in February 1920, when a motion about the long-anticipated reform to the Bismarckian constitution was placed in the Reichstag, in an effort to further turn the empire into a parliamentary monarchy. This move was backed by Chancellor Brockdorff and the Kaiser, but harshly opposed by the far right and the military. In an effort to force the government to abandon reforms, Ludendorff telegraphed his resignation to the Kaiser, a strategy he'd often made use of during the war to achieve his goals, well aware that the Kaiser would never dismiss him in Germany's darkest hour. But this time, things turned out different. Behind Ludendorff's back, the government had entered and talked with Hindenburg and managed to get him on board for the reformist vision in return for generous concessions to the military's autonomy. Therefore, Ludendorff was left isolated within the OHL. To his surprise, his resignation was accepted by the Kaiser, and his dictatorship ended in the most unspectacular way possible. Not long after Ludendorff's dismissal, far-reaching constitutional reforms were passed in the Reichstag, later known as the March Constitution. While the reforms finally turned Germany into parliamentary monarchy, they did not end up as far-reaching, as especially the SPD had hoped due to compromises with the conservatives. The Kaiser retained his nominal leadership over the armed forces and the right to appoint the chancellor despite the latter's dependency on the confidence of the Reichstag. In late March, the first election since 1912 took place. A progressive coalition of the SPD, FVD, and Zentrum formed, with the former colonial secretary Wilhelm Solf as a nonpartisan chancellor. Under Solf, order was restored in the empire. Occupation in the east was lifted in favor of establishing satellites controllers reasserted over the pre-war colonies, as well as of newly gained possessions in Africa and Asia. Stable diplomatic relations with the neighboring powers like the Commune of France, the Russian Republic, and Britain were reestablished, and the Mittel Europa bloc was founded. Solf's government fell in 1922 due to disagreements within his cabinet, and he was succeeded by Zentrum politicians Matthias Erzberger, who, however, resigned after only a few months due to a humiliating political scandal. The fall of Erzberger spelt an end to the progressive SPD-FVP-Zentrum coalition and saw the reemergence of the conservatives, as many Germans were unsatisfied with the new parliamentary leadership in the aftermath of the war. They thought that the new government had abandoned the hard-earned gains from the war for the sake of Germany's international reputation, and that they were not able to present Germany as a strong and assertive power on the global stage. Erzberger was succeeded by the National Liberal Conservative cabinet of Posadovsky-Werner in 1923. However, with the outbreak of the British Revolution in 1924, the next major internal crisis hit the empire's foreign secretary, Stresemann, accidentally caused a war scare after proposing military intervention in civil war-plagued Britain. Mere weeks later, the next government had fallen and snap elections were held. In the aftermath, the Kaiser decided for a grand coalition under late wartime Chancellor Ulrich von Brockdorff-Rantzau, a known democratic compromiser and master diplomat who was dubbed the last Bismarckian for a reason. He led Germany into a new golden era. While he did not intervene in Britain, Brockdorff orchestrated the peaceful reorganization of the unprotected British colonies into the Mittel-Africa Customs Union, as a grand colonial conference in Berlin pressured the Ottomans to intervene in the looming conflict in Iran, signed a far-reaching economic agreement with Russia, and ordered the intervention of German colonial forces during the Chinese Northern Expedition after the Yangtze Incident of September 26. As Britain was left incapacitated due to its revolution, the U.S. faded into the background as a result of the Great Depression. Germany had finally emerged as the world's uncontested hegemon. Okay, we only have two more. On the 8th of September 28, Brockdorff passed away at age 59. The coalition he had commanded over for most of his tenure, consisting of liberals and moderate conservatives, went down in history as the March Coalition, and remained in power for the next 4 years under the leadership of Wilhelm Marx and Johann von Bernstorff. Simultaneously, pivotal changes were happening in Germany, both internally and in foreign affairs. Blinded by their golden era, the Germans failed to see that they were slowly getting isolated on the global stage. The West, France had escaped containment and formed a powerful bloc of socialist nations with Britain and Italy, and to the east, the revanchist Russians were radicalizing further and further, culminating in the election of Boris Savinkov in 1934. The old pre-war fears of encirclement had returned. At home, reorganizations within the various conservative and liberal parties took place to appeal to the masses, a broader mass, but mostly to no avail. Being flexible moderates clinging to the status quo, both the SPD would slightly move to the left again since its exclusion from the Grand Coalition in the mid-20s, and the far-right DVLP would long remain a fringe niche party, but had risen to prominence after the ascension of the more inclusionist Ulrich von Hassel to the chairmanship was growing stronger and stronger. In 1934, another crisis brought the fall of the Bernstorff cabinet, and this time the Kaiser decided to intervene, hoping to regain some of his old powers that had been vastly limited in 1920. He decided for the appointment of the nonpartisan diplomat Herbert von Dirksen, former ambassador to Russia and known yes-man of the Kaiser. From the very beginning, this minority government suffered from severe difficulties to find majorities in the Reichstag and pass laws, but any proposals of getting rid of a chancellor via no confidence died down once it became clear that the permanent opposition, the DVLP and the SPD, would not back said plans, well aware that it would be more beneficial for them to wait for the approaching elections of 36, where both parties would surely have the prime chances to finally ascend to the government. As 35 comes to an end, the situation is looking dire for Dirksen, especially with the tumultuous situation in nearby Norway. Far-reaching changes lie ahead for the German Empire, that much is certain. The March reforms to the Bismarckian constitution were a compromise between the Bonn reformist legislature and the conservative establishment, but were nonetheless a major step in the direction of true constitutional monarchy in the German Empire. By far the most important reforms in the package was that the Reichstag now had the ability to remove the Reichskanzler and vote no confidence or indict them in a constitutional court for vast violations of conduct and duties. Though Reichskanzler appointment was nonetheless vested solely in the Kaiser, he now has to keep the intentions of the Reichstag in mind when choosing his favorites. Depending on whether there was an obvious coalition in the Reichstag or was fractured, Reichskanzlers have since wavered between partisan politicians and tolerable favorites of Kaiser. Additionally, the Reichskanzler is now responsible for all political actions of the Kaiser. The members of the Reichstag can now simultaneously be members of the government, and declarations of war as well as peace treaties now require the Reichstag's assent. The minimum voting age of 25 was reduced to 21, and the redistricting of Reichstag constituencies took place, reducing the power of enlarged rural constituencies and establishing multi-member constituencies in the major cities where partial proportional voting reigns. Finally, though it was implemented a year prior, then during the March Reforms in 1920, the despised three-class franchise in Prussia was replaced with a system already tested in Saxony and other constituent German states, plural voting, a system in which each citizen starts with one vote but can get up to 8 votes through fulfilling certain wealth and education qualifications. Though much less imbalanced, it nonetheless helps contain social democratic and liberal momentum in Prussia. We now have path guides, it seems. Look at that. They went ahead and followed the Kaiser Redux path side of things. Kaiser Redux had a pretty good way to do it. I like how they include a spoiler set button too. That is clever. I'm barely reading any of that, so that won't help me too much. Well, let's continue. Sell investments in Poland. Interesting. Alright, well, let's take a look. We could dismantle the Reichstag. No, that's too coarse, I'm not going to. Here he is. Old Willy II, the Kaiser of the Old World. Reigning as King of Prussia and German Emperor since 1888, Wilhelm II has earned the respect of the world in spite of his far from positive beginnings, and German hegemony since the end of the Weltkrieg has become indistinguishable from his persona. Tout, restless, and irresolute, fiercely rejecting the desire of his mother Victoria to groom him into a liberal British aristocrat, yet never fully shaking off these habits. Wilhelm ascended the imperial throne at the age of 29. His reign was one of the bellicose new course, culminating in the aggressive Weltpolitik, of feuds and conflicts with almost every one of his chancellors, and of diplomatic blunders which isolated Germany in the world affairs before the start of the Weltkrieg. In spite of a lackluster start, Wilhelm slowly gained experience, or at least tried to temper his most irrational tendencies, especially after the Daily Telegraph affair of 1908. Though Wilhelm was never a reformist, he equally despised being shut out of political affairs by the clique gathered around Paul von Hindenburg and Erich Ludendorff during the Weltkrieg, and tactfully aligned with forces opposing their developing dictatorship at war's end. Victory in the Weltkrieg vindicated the Kaiser's imperialist course, erased his past blunders from public memory, and allowed him to break down the dictatorship of the two generals. Germany has since returned to normalcy, serving as the last anchor of the old world in a planet increasingly overtaken by revolt and revolution. By now, the Kaiser is almost 80 years old, and has ruled Germany for almost half of those years. The youthful years of blunt indifference or interference in politics and xenophobic babbling in the press are past him. Wilhelm has been largely passive in German politics for well over a decade, expressing his will through a circle of advisors and the aid of the Crown Prince. However, he remains a symbol of Germany's victory, ambition, and dignity. Well, there we go. We have 6 focuses, it looks like. First, we have March leads to April, which, holy fuck, that kills our political power and our stability. What the hell? The March reforms to the Bismarckian Constitution, approved in 1920 after the fall of the OHL regime, laid the groundwork for a new era of genuine constitutionalism in the German Empire. A post-war consensus soon developed under the so-called March coalition of liberal parties in Zentrum, which sought to retain the achievements of March, tactically cooperate with the left or the right to prevent either of them from gaining power, and finalize the glorious conclusion to Weltpolitik. Content with keeping the SPD and DVLP away from the chancellorship, Wilhelm II endorsed this consensus, approving their chancellors and offering cooperative ones elsewhere. The liberal consensus has come to an end. Well, this consensus is coming to an end. Decline of the Liberal Volksparty, the arrogant and toady attitude of Chancellor Herbert von Dirksten, and the growth of Reichstag's permanent opposition have all contributed to its death. In mid-35, the March coalition dissolved, and the Chancellor now has almost no support in the Reichstag. Defying expectations, the SPD and the DVLP have refused to call for a vote of confidence against the Chancellor, intending to leave him to rot in the Skeletor throne until the elections to the Reichstag this April. The beginning of April will cause the death of March. I see what they did there. It's clever. Little name. Next, we're the victors of Weltkrieg, which just kills a lot more stuff, too. Goddamn. On the 12th of August, 1919, the guns fell silent. The Weltkrieg was over, and Germany came out victorious after 5 grueling years of warfare. It has now been made certain in the minds of the German population that the Imperial German army is unstoppable. France has been beaten twice, and Russia has been thoroughly dismantled. Even this victory did not make the brilliant minds of the Deutsche here rest. New weapons and techniques of war, such as armored vehicles and combined arms, have been adapted to the traditional doctrine of mobile warfare, and the Luftstreitkräfte was established as an independent air force after a pitched political brawl in 1927. As invincible as the German army seems, however, it suffers as an institution. The laurels of victory hide lacking central coordination, dominance of the military by aristocrats, and vitriolic inter-service rivalry. The heroes become divided into cliques, each with their own ways to resolve the crisis, while motivation to reform the army among the civilian government is at an all-time low. But if Germany is to win the inevitable Second Weltkrieg, these problems must be resolved. Next, we have Deutsches Weltreich, German World Empire? The German Empire is at the top of the world. Its rivals and enemies from 20 years ago have fallen to revolution, surrendered their empires, or gone to steep decline. All the roads of this new world lead to Berlin, the cultural, economic, and political heart of Europe. Our mission is to defend this new world with all our might, as our enemies are numerous. Next, we have a Christmas spike. Years of speculative investment and the proliferation of high-value German government bonds have created a massive bull market in the Berlin Stock Exchange. The stock index of the Imperial Statistical Office is reporting a record spike in the stock market prices, creating a volatile yet highly profitable market. Money is flowing fast and is rapidly funneled into savings, investments, or generally even greater speculation. This consensus is that the spike in stock prices will either last forever or for just long enough that everyone can get their money's worth. Nothing wrong will happen there, I'm sure. Next, we have the fruits of the open door. Through the legation city, I'm getting a little too excited by the fruits of the open door. What can I say? Though the legation cities do provide us with the benefits of free trade, much of our profit from China stems from our investments in the AOG. Both illicit and legal trade provide our nation with a healthy stipend. And finally, we are a member of Mittel Europa. Officially the Central European Economic Union, Mittel Europa is a customs and economic union unifying Germany's sphere of influence, established after the Weltkrieg. Member states of Mittel Europa find the impact of this agreement mixed. While the economic concessions with Germany are beneficial, the agreement is heavily weighed in German favor. Well, we don't need to talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there, my friends. We did a lot of reading. We haven't even unpaused, selected focus, or done any of the start stuff yet. I'll take a look at the focus tree real quick. This is quite an impressive focus tree. I knew it was going to be, but yeah. Take over scatter flow. What? Ooh, interesting. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Anyhow, I'm guessing this is what happens if we win. Interesting indeed. Kalte Krieg. Oh, this is all for like future update stuff. Interesting. Also, shout out to Kalte Krieg, the new one of the HoI 4 mods that's gonna HoI 4 mods that's gonna be coming out this year. If anyone's watching this, who's on the team, hello. I'm looking forward to the mod. Anyhow. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Yeah, thanks for always watching, gang. If you liked the video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comments below. And yeah, my various links. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comment section below. And I will see you all in the next time. I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogweb333. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.